You're listening to Sweep the League.
Hey, this is George Iceman Gervin, and you're listening to Sweep the League Radio.
Hey, what is up, everybody? It's Rudy Campos Jr., Sweep the League. Got another special segment here, our Spotlight segment. Be sure to check out Sweep Unplugged, where we unplug ourselves from our normal Sweep the League days, taking the breaks off for Derek Gervin, for Coach Gio, for myself. We introduce you to the world of authors, book authors. We're talking to coaches, Division One, Division Two coaches, health and fitness people, gurus out there. That is Sweep Unplugged. Be sure to check it out. And of course, Sweep the League, as well as the Best Boys podcast, the I Am Refocused radio network. To go along with even Lean Right, Lean Left, we've got a bunch of stuff going on for the Sweep the League network. Go to YouTube, search Sweep the League TV. Be a subscriber today. We just gave away a Keon Coleman autographed helmet. We're giving away a lot of other stuff too. The only way to win is to be a subscriber. So be sure to go to YouTube, search Sweep the League TV, hit that subscribe button. What is our spotlight? Well, we're introducing another segment here, another show for you guys out there. Might be a weekly thing that we do here. We're going to find out here, but this is going to be your college football weekly. And what we do on a college football weekly, obviously, is what it is. We talk about college football. We're going to talk about the Heisman race tonight. We're also going to talk about the potential for players, maybe in certain spots. It's going to be a quick hit type of show, about 20, 30 minutes or so. Let's get right to it. What we do is we're going to be bringing on Mr. William Yanish and also Miss Brandis Bell. We're going to have William on tonight. They're both part of the Under the Bleachers College Football podcast. Be sure to check them out. They do fantastic work. They're going to be joining us on Sweep the League. But right now, we've got Mr. William Yanish here tonight. William, you and I have talked before, man. Welcome to Sweep the League, man. Welcome back.
How you been, Rudy?
I've been good. As you can tell, probably a little bit more busier than I think the last time we had you on here. But it's good. I think last time we did it was a recording with no images whatsoever, but we kind of upgraded the studio and everything. So we're able to bring everybody images here. But talk to us a little bit real quick about Under the Bleachers College Football podcast.
Oh, yes, sir. Since you you were just talking about giving me my first shot back in the day, a little bit over a year ago. No, I got to, writing evaluations and such on quarterbacks and college prospects and such. I am still just a writer. However, everybody's doing podcasts these days. So, I went and found a professional women's football player, Brandis Bell. She's a defensive back for the Atlanta Rage. Hopefully she can join us tonight. She isn't too tied up.
Yeah.
But we study the bracketology. We started out at the beginning of the season with the possible brackets that, we thought it could be towards the end of the season, and we shoot once a week on Wednesday night and just go over the top 25 matchups, whatever hot is going on, and this year has absolutely, been good for that. I mean, so many upsets and so many surprising teams, like Indiana and Boise State and things like that, and so that's one thing that we're going to continue, and we'll be headed into doing the college prospects before the 2025 draft. And then, of course, coming back next year and doing the bracketology all over again. But like I said, we're on Facebook. We'll have a website up here pretty quick. Other than that, I've got a few other guys involved in the show. Chris Ransom of Draft Utopia. He's a moderator for Under the Bleachers, and provides his part of of football knowledge. And this guy, I call him the brain. I mean, he just absolutely knows everything. I wouldn't even know where to begin, like, with half of what he knows. But other than that, man, that's what we have going on, and hopefully we have a pretty bright future.
Oh, yeah, dude. You got to check them out. Under the Bleachers College Football Podcast. I catch it from time to time. It's great work. Keeps you updated on college football. Gets you ready for the NFL draft all the time. I met up with William back when I was kind of doing a little bit of podcasting with First Round Mock, I believe is what it was. Daniel Kelly out there. So shout out to Daniel Kelly out there. First Round Mock Draft does a great job. Him and William, they all did great jobs back then. They still do it now. And we're gonna dive right into it, man, because the biggest part about college football, with the exception of course the national championship game, the biggest thing this year is the top 12, and we're going to cover that here pretty soon. But tonight we're going to go out of the top 12 and go into maybe the top three. What are we talking about? Top three? We're talking about Heisman candidates tonight. This is one of the few years where you can actually point and say, I don't think that QB is good enough to be a Heisman. We don't have that quarterback, that Peyton Manning. You don't have that, Stroud, whatever. You don't have these guys that are here. The Caleb Williams, which should have never been drafted. Period. We'll get into that later. But Caleb type stuff. You don't have these quarterbacks that come in and dominate. This year, it's kind of a two-man race right now, with Travis Hunter probably being one, and I've got Genty being number two. Now, cases can be made. I've heard people say Cam Ward. I love Cam Ward. I think he's going to be in New York, but I don't think he gets it. Is this the year that we don't see a QB win the Heisman?
That's definitely one of the things, man, is, that's mostly what I do is quarterbacks. And what I was just talking to you about before the show, I really haven't seen that Heisman moment from some of these quarterbacks. I mean, Cam Ward has absolutely been, just great coming over from Washington State and leading this Miami team, to their first losses last weekend. And he is an absolute dynamic quarterback. He's thrown for 32 touchdowns, rushed for 3 more. But, also there's 2 other quarterbacks that kind of I can see an argument for. And Jalen Milroe is one of them.
Yeah.
And the thing is, with Jalen Milroe, between him and Cam Ward, that's 2 different kinds of dynamic. Jalen Milroe is absolutely the most dynamic, probably the fastest guy on the field at any given time, but Cam Ward is a quarterback first. The third is Jackson Dart from Ole Miss, and they just ended up beating Georgia, and you can actually call that a Heisman moment. Yeah. Milroe also had that, but them coming back from behind and almost winning that game kind of spoiled that one for a Heisman moment to absolutely say, that was it. That was, why he won the Heisman right there. But, those are the 3 quarterbacks that I have had, in my rankings. They've been at the top of my quarterback rankings. Well, not the very top. Dart, I had a 3rd round grade on at the beginning of the season. Milroe, I had a 1st round grade on, but he is a raw 1st round grade. And just raw in the point of, I really wanted to see what him and DeBauer were going to do together at Alabama. And there has been absolute flashes, but then there has been, losses to Vanderbilt and things like that. But, and Ward, I had, a late 1st to early 2nd round grade on, which was about the same as Quinn Ewers, but, he missed a few games already. And between this and that, I'm not sure where he's going to finish on my chart, but Ward and Milroe are definitely probably the top 2, besides maybe Garrett Nussmeier. I really like him too, but he is one of those players that is young, hasn't had much tape. He's just been sitting back, learning quarterback, behind Jaden Daniels and whatever else. And he can definitely make something of himself. I don't believe he'll come out in this draft at all. He'll probably hang out another year, but yeah. I had a 1st round grade on him as well. But as for the top 2, Heisman rankings, I have Travis Hunter in second. I mean, obviously he's Iron Man. He has 69 receptions, also 856 yards, 9 TDs. On defense, 20 tackles, 13 solo, a forced fumble, and a pair of INTs.
Yeah.
But the overall number one who I think should win is Ashton Genty from Boise State. And the thing is with that is just how many are actually going to vote for him, coming out of Boise State. They usually go for these big school kids. I mean, on the Heisman odds, they have Travis Hunter at number 1, Dylan Gabriel at number 2, Genty at number 3, Ward at 4, Curtis Rourke at 5, Jalen Milroe at 6, and Jackson Dart at 7. And I think that's fair. I'm not that high on Dylan Gabriel though. He is a good college quarterback, and he is way experienced. I mean, this is his 6th or 7th year in college. Bouncing back and forth, going to UCF, and then ending up at Oregon. I knew he could lead this team, and I knew he could win with this team. But as a draft prospect, I don't see him much going too much further into the NFL. I just don't see him with the arm strength or the size. I actually had it suggested in my last evaluation of him that I feel maybe a switch to slot receiver, could keep him going in the NFL. I just don't really see him as an NFL quarterback. So there's that.
Yeah, you got Ashton Genty. The thing with Ashton was he started the season so hot, and I would probably put him. I would probably put him at number 1. I agree with you on that for the Heisman Trophy, with Hunter being number 2. Um, the thing with Genty was the hype. I mean, he was about to break Barry Sanders' records for rushing yards in a season. I think it was 37 touchdowns was what Barry had in one season. I think right now Genty is at 16. No, what is he at right now? I got his stats right here. 23 touchdowns. Now, can he get to 37? It's very unlikely, but I mean, he could get a 5 touchdown game in there at some point with a couple of games left on the season. He could kind of maybe get close to it. I don't see him catching Barry on any of the records that Barry had for Oklahoma State University when Barry was playing there. But overall, Genty's probably number 1 when it comes to Heisman. Then you've got Travis, and then it's kind of up in the air for number 3. Real quick, before we go on to excuse me, before we go on to the college, to the pro ranks, kind of give an idea where some of these guys might go real quick on the last segment here. I mentioned a guy, and he plays for the official team of Sweep the League, and that is the Indiana Hoosiers. Now we cover UTSA football, but we basically adopted Indiana before the season started. And one of our guys, Coach Gio, basically said, watch out for Indiana and the Hoosiers. Kurt Signetti's going. They've got Curtis Rourke. They've got an offense. He's a winner. Both guys are winners, and you're seeing it. Their first season they've had is 10-0 under Signetti. And they've got a big game coming up against Ohio State. You talked about a Heisman moment. Curtis Rourke doesn't have the Heisman numbers when it comes to being top 3, but a win over Ohio State, say he passes for 240, 230, 2 or 3 touchdowns, a win like that kind of has to boost him above a lot of people, do you think?
The one thing with Curtis Rourke is, I mean, it has been, the first time Indiana has ever started out undefeated like they have.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, that can almost be considered a Heisman moment. I mean, just what he has led that team to. I mean, the fact that they're in the Big Ten, and he's 6'5", 223 pounds. I watched some of his stuff. I mean, he sells his play action. He has decent improvisation. Rhythmic footwork, great zip on passes. And I mean, he can sneaky mobile and can absolutely generate some torque with that long body that he has. It's definitely a possibility. I mean, he has 21 passing TDs, four INTs, and 2 rushing touchdowns. But if he can do something like knock Ohio State off, I mean, he can absolutely win it. I mean, that just might be, somebody, like I said, like a quarterback guy waiting for somebody to have their Heisman moment. And that would just, I mean, be the cherry on top, being able to knock off Ohio State. But whether or not that'll happen, I mean,
It's tough. It's tough to tell if he'll able to be knocking off Ohio State. That's a big task right there. But I mean, you've everybody's kind of doubted Indiana before this season on a couple of games. First one I can remember was they were supposed to have a very tough game against Nebraska, and it was just a cakewalk in the park for them. They were going to have a tough game against Michigan, which they did. It was a very tough game, but you're talking about, even though Michigan's having an off year, you're still talking about one of the top teams in the Big Ten, whether they are 4-10 or 10-4 or whatever, 10-0. Doesn't matter. You always got to remember Michigan always gets a lot of the best recruits in the land. So that was a tough game. They came out on top. That Ohio State game next weekend is gonna be a barn burner. We're talking to William Yanish under the bleachers, college football podcast. Check him out. We're gonna try to get a Brandis Bell counterpart there with William Yanish on the podcast. We're not gonna be able to have her tonight. We'll see if we can swing for her to get her for next weekend. We are talking Heisman candidates, but last segment of the show here, we're gonna have a little bit of fun here because everybody knows I release them every year, and actually now I'm releasing them every Tuesday. So if not today, tomorrow morning, you'll have your official Sweep the League mock draft out. The one that last week came out, people were kind of like, oh, why you go? I said, come on, relax, man. It's a mock draft. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. I'm telling you basically who I feel is the need for the quarterback, or not quarterback, but the team. People are like, you should have taken a quarterback here. You should have done. Oh, it doesn't matter. I mean, you can't be the Dallas Cowboys and take a QB because you just paid Dak Prescott, $2 quadrillion. You can't just get rid of him like that and bring in a young guy. I mean, if you're the Atlanta Falcons, you bring in Michael Penix in the first round, which I guess I'm going to be okay with that. That's fine because we know Kirk Cousins can go off the deep end anytime. But we're gonna have a little bit of fun here. Shedeur Sanders is the name. He's the main guy that everybody's talking about. He's the guy that you're talking. You hear people talking. We got people on Sweep the League. He's a franchise quarterback. He's this and that. Now, you and I both know, since we kind of do a lot of the work here, we both know he could be a franchise quarterback. Keyword is could be a franchise quarterback in the right situation. Yeah, the likelihood of him being a franchise quarterback is probably nil, but we'll have fun with this. Everybody's pointing to the Dallas Cowboys as one stop for Shedeur Sanders. In my latest mock draft, which was last week, I believe I had Shedeur going, I think it was around 6 or 7 to the Raiders, to Vegas. Now, what better place for Shedeur to go to Las Vegas, the city of lights, Sin City. I mean, his personality, his play, it fits with the Raiders. That's why I had him going there. But in all likelihood, my first QB to go was Cam Ward. If you have one QB to go, and let's say the Patriots are one, they're not going to take a QB. They've got Drake May. Even Carolina, they've got Bryce Young. It's kind of a hit or miss on that one. But who would be the first QB off the board for you?
The way that I see it, I feel it would definitely be Cameron Ward or Jalen Milroe. Like I said, it depends on what kind of dynamic you want and what kind of quarterback you want. If you want the guy that's looking down the field all the time and can absolutely sling it, but can also have some wheels under him, that's Cam Ward all day. But
yeah,
with Jalen Milroe, that's the kind where you have a Lamar Jackson type and just what he can do. But the thing is, he is bigger and more physical than Lamar Jackson and faster. And, well, right there, but, roughly about the same. But, I mean, watching Jalen Milroe is just absolutely fun. That is one evaluation that I just love doing, and no matter how raw he is, he still has that potential. And just, I mean, some of the quarterbacks that have been picked the last couple of years in the first round, between like Bryce Young and between like Anthony Richardson and
Yeah.
between some of those guys, I mean, there is absolutely no reason that Milroe can't go in the first round, because, I mean, he is a better quarterback. He doesn't have the injuries that Anthony Richardson had during college, and I mean, he's just better at throwing the ball. Richardson, looking downfield, is looking for a wide open receiver, and he's not really, doesn't know how to go through his progressions consistently. And
Yeah.
like I said, but I mean, so, but if I were the Raiders, I mean, that would be the first thing that you would have to do. I mean, the Raiders are going to be after a quarterback, likely. I do like Aiden O'Connell, but he is developmental. And the New York Giants, and like you mentioned, possibly the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
And oh, that's Brandis. I think she'll probably be coming on. Anyway, but like I said, who I have the Raiders picking though.
And it didn't have to be the Raiders. Basically, if you had one quarterback
Well,
coming off the board.
well, that's one thing that I was going to mention. If I were the Raiders, I'd be picking Ashton Genty. We had a mock the other day. I was GM for the Raiders. That's who I ended up picking with the number 8 overall pick.
Yeah.
And however, I feel that I do like Milroe just having a little bit more of a higher ceiling than Ward. So we'll go with that one.
Cool. That's what we're trying to figure out here. We want to see. We're gonna basically go week to week, and we're gonna get some teams in there. I didn't want to bring up the Cowboys because I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I'm trying to see where I had the Cowboys and who I had the Cowboys picking. I can't remember. I think it was actually because I only had two quarterbacks going in the first round. I had them taking Nick Scorton out of Texas A&M at the 11th pick. So
Mm-hmm.
I figured they would go defense. I actually had a lot of defensive linemen, edge guys going in this draft. The first quarterback I had was actually Carolina, and that was Cam Ward. But again, second week coming of Bryce Young, seeing a little bit more. I liked the rookies that they had on the offensive side with Bryce Young. So I felt, okay, this coming draft that I'm going to do the mock draft either today or tomorrow, I'm probably going to overlook the quarterback position for Carolina, go a different way. Nonetheless, I had Travis Hunter going number 1. And on this mock draft for last week, I had him going to the New England Patriots. I had Will Johnson going to the Jacksonville Jaguars 3, at 2, Mason Graham at 3 to the Saints, Cam Ward 4
Mm-hmm.
to the Panthers, and then the Browns. I had them taking Kelvin Banks out of Texas. So
Mm-hmm.
I only had 2 QBs in the first round, which I'm more than likely thinking you're going to get maybe 3, possibly 4. 2 of them are going to be at the end of the first round, but
There always seems to.
It always
there always,
happens.
yeah. There are always those quarterbacks, that sneak up in there. And at the beginning of the season, I mean, everyone was looking at Carson Beck.
Yeah.
I had a first round grade on him, but it was into the first. I was kind of questioning, who he sorry, my brain just went but where was I even talking about? Carson Beck
Yeah.
coming in at the end of the first round. But I feel he's regressed this year and is more of a third round pick. If I saw 4 quarterbacks going in the opening round, it would be Milroe, Ward, Garrett Nussmeier, and probably Quinn Ewers.
I definitely
Besides
could see
that,
Quinn being a first round quarterback. I look at the injury thing. I think the injury prone that Quinn has probably puts him in the second round for me, the one obvious I think is you're going to see Shador go win the first round, and there's no reason why.
Yeah.
But we're gonna have to live with that. You know, the whole Bronny James type thing. Even though Bronny went in the second round,
Yeah.
it's just the hype of the last name. But he has improved. I had him undraftable a year ago. Went back to Colorado. He's improved. I've actually got him all the way up to a fourth round grade for me. But again, you know, guys that I could see going in the first round. I do like Cam Ward probably being the first quarterback taken. You mentioned Milrow. I do like Quinn Ewers if he can sneak in. I think I've got a second round of him just because of the injury concerns. Uh, Outside of that, it's a good year for quarterbacks, but I feel like it's a better year for the other position players, is what I see. I think quarterback this year is kind of one where, okay, you can grab a good backup, you can get a good starter in here somewhere, but don't expect them to come in right away and contribute right away. Jaden Daniels is having a really good rookie season for the Commanders. I don't really see a QB coming in from this draft to have that kind of thing right there for anybody in the NFL right now. So we're gonna what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring in Brandis here. We're towards the end of the show here. I'm gonna go ahead and bring in Brandis Bell here. Everybody can get to know her a little bit here. So let's welcome her to the stage. Hi, Brandis. How you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good, good. Thank you for joining us, Sweep the League. I know we're at the end here, but I did want to bring you on here to talk to you a little bit here. We were talking about the Heisman candidates that we're seeing, also some NFL teams that are probably going to be looking at certain quarterbacks or anything in the NFL draft. Do you want to throw in your Heisman candidates here?
Yeah, I really think that there's quite a few contenders. I think that this year, probably more than any other year, I've really been paying attention anyway. You've got probably a majority of the contenders aren't actually quarterbacks. I know that you guys are probably all have already talked extensively about Travis Hunter. What he's been able to do over at Colorado is just amazing, and I think that any NFL team would love to have him. Obviously, there's some NFL teams that probably need him. I'm always going to root for him to come to the, the Falcons, but I think he's definitely a shoe in for the Heisman right now, especially if Colorado continues on the trajectory that they've been on. Also, Ashton Genty is just like out of this world.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a running back like that in a long time. He's giving, I guess, kind of Bijan Robinson kind of energy also, and I think that those types of running backs are kind of one in a million. You know, there's a lot of running backs, but to be able to do the things that he's been able to do. And if he was at, a different school, I think that he'd probably get a lot more acclaim than he has been. But, not being in one of those Power Four schools makes it a little difficult to kind of be under the radar. And he's still made quite a name for himself. He's just kind of a technician. I always would joke when we were watching the games. Sometimes you see players do certain things, and I'm like, oh, that kid took dance. He moves like a dancer. Those are my top two. When it comes to quarterbacks, you can't deny what Cam Ward has done. And I think that, despite them losing this past weekend, he's still in the running, obviously. Garrett Nussmeier, I surprisingly think that he's actually, shown a lot more than I thought he was going to show in the beginning. They got off to a rough start, but he's showing that he could also help just about any NFL team as well. So that's probably about it for me. I'd love to say that, my dogs would have a quarterback that might be in the running or any player, but unfortunately, I'm not really seeing it out of the dogs this year.
Well,
Carson,
we did see the dogs come into to Austin and take care of the overconfident Longhorns, including me. I took the Longhorns in that game, and one of our co-hosts, Coach Gio, who's a major Georgia Bulldog fan, and I had to live the entire week with it on the show. So I shout out to Georgia. Y'all made me eat a lot of crow that week right there. So totally understand
we're
that.
eating it now because you guys got to buy. So here
But
we are.
well, I will admit I'm not a Longhorn fan. I do cover them and we do talk about them, I'm a diehard Tar Heel fan, so I really don't have much to cheer on when it comes to football. Pretty much at all. I got the Longhorn leftovers with Mac Brown, so I'm kind of in my own space over here, and basketball season just doesn't treat me very well these days either. So nonetheless, I kind of
Yeah.
go for, I guess, baseball and track and field for North Carolina to get my only hopes up high anywhere here. But
They
before
got a
we
pretty good running back over there, man.
they actually do have a good
Yeah.
running back. We got little bits and pieces. We just can't get the entire. It's almost
And then
because
you had Drake May before, and Josh
yeah,
Downs before that.
Brandis mentioned the Falcons, and I'm a Falcon fan, so I know disappointment
Woo!
left and right. That's all I can say, man. I just
No,
know too much disappointment.
we know what it's like to
Yeah.
just
So,
never
so
always
many
surprise me.
people, so many people question that draft pick, Michael Penix, and it's like, okay, if you see a window, no matter how big it is, you need to take it. So I completely respected that draft pick.
Yeah.
No, I mean, Penix was hurt in college a lot, and I mean, but as he got healthier, he also got a whole lot better, and I mean, it
Yeah.
absolutely showed. And
Yeah. People
that's
didn't respect Kirk Cousins going there either, but I knew that he would be there because I think people pay attention to the weirdest things sometimes with football. They're like, "Oh, he chokes in the playoffs." I'm like, "Do you not understand that we had Matt Ryan for years?" Like
Yeah.
it
Oh yeah.
choke, like he's not even raising the glass to be able to drink the fluids to choke. Like what are we talking about here? I think that Kirk Cousins is was great because Mike Penix was not ready to play
Yeah.
right now. I don't personally think he was ready. Close, but I don't think he's ready. And sometimes they let those quarterbacks play straight out of college, and sometimes it fares well for them. Sometimes it doesn't. I think C.J. Stroud did great straight out of the gate. I think that Justin Fields struggled. I think if Justin Fields would have sat under somebody like a what's the Steelers quarterback name? Help me.
Russell Wilson.
Um,
Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson, he would have definitely been better. But I think he's getting there now. Unfortunately, he wasted that first year just struggling with the Bears. But now that he's with the Steelers, I think when he does jump back on the field, he's going to be that much better. And Penix is going to be that much better, being able to play under Kirk Cousins for a while.
Well, we're talking to William Yanish and Brandis Bell under the Bleachers College Football Podcast. You can catch them on YouTube. It's a great podcast. I kind of dive in every now and then. I don't comment, but I listen to them in the background. They do fantastic work. And I'm talking to William Brandis earlier. We want to kind of make this a weekly thing if possible, get you guys back on, kind of have a college football weekly, talk a little bit of draft, talk a little bit about stuff. We'll try to leave Falcons Super Bowls out of the conversation if possible, because I get that enough from the listeners at Sweep the League all the time. Every time somebody just has to comment 28-3, whether it be, the scores,
Mhm.
whether it be something. I never can get around that ever in my entire life here. So I do want to do this again next week with you guys. Yeah, see, I see William making a comment there. I do want to do this again with you guys, and I appreciate y'all coming on tonight. But again, y'all keep doing fantastic work. I appreciate everything that you guys do. I look forward to all the content that you guys are releasing as well. So if we can, let's make this a weekly thing with you guys if possible.
We can definitely look into that, man. And definitely, man, started this whole thing, by putting me on a little over a year ago. So I mean, it's just now continuing, getting a whole lot better. So
We all we got to do is work at it, man. We'll work on it. But until
I
next week,
actually had to
guys.
try it,
Well, yeah,
like
you got
not
to try it.
writing.
You got to just get behind the mic and behind the camera and let it happen. I've been doing this for almost going on 9 years, 10 years, and now I'm just starting to see the benefits of it. So
I
it's a lot of work.
realized that, I just have to show up and talk to my friends about football, and it's easy. Since I've realized that, should I say? At first, I didn't really know what I was doing at all. It was actually terrible, like terrible, terrible a few times. But
I never
you
know what
know,
I'm doing. I think that's the
yeah,
point though. Just don't know what you're doing, but pretend like you do and you'll be doing it.
yeah,
Oh, there's a lot of famous people on TV and four little networks that do that exactly. They get on there and they probably have no idea what they're talking about, but it's how you sell it. If you do the arms and this and you're loud, you're gonna make $1 million. That's all
Yeah.
it takes there. But until
Get
then,
a
you
few
know what?
people, we've had Rocky Lombardi on, and
Yeah.
that's really, I mean, he's a good talker, man. Good quarterback too. And I mean, he's always fun to have a show with. So, I mean,
yeah, we can with
keep
you
going.
guys, we can bring on more people as well. I mean, we can have a lot of fun with this as well. But for now, we're going to end this part of Sweep the League here. This is Sweep the League College Football Weekly with Brandis and William Yanish from Under the Bleachers College Football Podcast. I appreciate them joining us on here tonight. Makes me feel a lot better that I'm not the only Falcon fan in the world. So appreciate Brandis for letting me know about that here. So
Our numbers are
I know
growing.
2 of them.
Yeah, William knows 2 of them now. There are 2 in the world here. It's not just one. So for William, for Brandis, it's Rudy Campos Jr. Until we sweep the league again, we'll see you guys later.
Thanks, guys.